Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Bush League Huddle, Episode 2. I'm your host, Anthony, or as my co-hosts call me, Nacc. And I'm joined by my co-host, Raj and Fabio. How are you doing today, boys?
What's up?
What's up, guys? Good to see you.
So we finished our first one. We got some great feedback from the audience, which was greatly appreciated. Thank you for everyone who took the time to listen and to provide their feedback. How'd you guys think it went?
I thought it was a little bit rocky at first. No, who am I kidding? It went fantastic. It was great. It was so much fun. It was great. It was a lot of fun. The nerves were there, but like as we got into it more, it got more fluid, and like it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I did get a lot of good feedback from a lot of people that I actually haven't spoken to in a little bit, and they were kind enough to reach out to me on Instagram. You know who you are if you're listening to episode 2. So that was really cool, and it was nice, and yeah, a lot of positive feedback. The intro was a big hit, the intro music leading up to that. So no, positive all around.
Yeah, the intro music slaps, as I've been saying, and I thought that the silence that we just started with was like, oh no, it wasn't good, but no, I think it was great. We got some great feedback, and very much looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I didn't know what to expect at first. It's obviously my first podcast. I know, Raj, you have a little bit of experience in it, but I guess for me and Fab, it was kind of our first. So it was definitely exciting, definitely very, very fun, and looking forward to many more episodes to come. So today on episode 2, as we are about 1 month away, as we're taping this, exactly 1 month away from the draft. So we're going to take a look at the top 6 QB prospects. I guess as we get closer to the draft, every week we'll dive into a new position group. So this week we'll focus on QBs. Next week we'll focus probably on wide receivers and so on and so forth. So we'll bring that kind of content to the pod up until the draft. So we could start. We could go dive right in. I guess Raj, Mr. SC over there. I don't think there's any doubts of Caleb Williams going number 1, right?
Yeah. I've said it to you guys. I've said it within our group chat as well. Just the fact that Lincoln Riley, he coached Baker Mayfield, he coached Jalen Hurts, he coached Kyler Murray. They're not necessarily on their way to Canton, but they're 3 QBs that have been in the Heisman final. 2 of them won Heisman trophies. So the floor is really high for all of them, and I think the floor is really high for Caleb. I have a hard time seeing him bust. He had almost 95 TDs in his career, only 10 or 14 interceptions, and he's the best off-platform thrower. He doesn't need his feet set. He can make those trick shots. He could scramble out of the pocket. He can make quick reads too. So, and if you factor in Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, even the offensive coordinator that they have, Shane Waldron, that they just hired, he's worked in the McVay offense before. So he has all the tools to succeed. I have a hard time really thinking that he'll bust, but you never know.
Yeah, I agree with that. You hit on a lot of good points. I mean, I think the biggest one is that they're surrounding him with a lot of weapons. I know we touched on that, the little snippet that we posted the other day, that they are setting him up to succeed, or at least have every opportunity to succeed, which I think is super important for a rookie QB coming in. But this guy also has a ton of confidence. I mean, he's coming in already loaded, ready to go. He's so sure of himself. And yeah, I think that might have been a bit of a knock during a lot of the combine stuff, and a lot of people are giving him a knock on his attitude and all that. And I'll come forward, I was a little bit. That was the only issue I might have had with him. Apart everything apart from the physical attributes and how spectacular of a prospect he is, there was that bit of a I don't want to say an attitude issue, but there's always the personality dysfunctionality that might exist within quarterbacks. But you saw him at the combine, you saw him at the pro day. At his pro day, he was dapping everybody. He was talking to all the guys. Even during the combine, he was hanging around waiting for his teammates to finish their routines and their sets and everything. So it's hard for me to have any sort of negativity towards or negative comment towards Caleb. And that's even taking into consideration the fact that, like, out of all 6 major prospects, I think he had the highest sack rate. He had like a 35% sack rate on third down or something, which was super, super high. But then again, you look at the team he was playing for too. They were void of talent compared to, especially on the defensive side, compared to the other college teams.
For sure.
But apart from that, I got nothing else. Yeah, go ahead, Nacc.
No. I definitely agree with both of what you're saying, for sure. And to Raj's point, they're bringing him in, and there's talent. So if he cannot succeed with the talent that's there, I think that's not a Bears failure. I think, like, they're all being talked about on how they failed on Trubisky and how they failed on Fields, and even, like, go back to Cutler before that. They're saying that they can't groom a QB. Well, I think this is Poles' first time. He didn't draft Fields, right? So I think Poles is now surrounding him, seeing the failures that they had there. Now he's surrounded him with 2 top-end wide receivers in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. So he's got the talent there. He's got the talent in the backfield. So I think if he does fail, I think that's on Caleb, not on the Bears. Unless they really decide to be, I don't know, unless it gets into a train wreck over there. But I can't imagine it is with that sort of talent. He has arguably the best talent he's ever had surrounded him. So he can't. I don't see how he does fail. All the bus talk, I don't know. I can't. I don't see it either. I also heard something interesting. It was yesterday or the day before, on how he's the first superstar nil player to come into the league. So you see how he is with money, right? A lot of these kids come into the NFL and, they get their first paycheck, or they're paid millions, and they go off the handle. They think this guy, he made $10 million last year. He made more than like 90% of the coaches were even making in college. So it's like the first time a superstar comes out, has the money, and look, he's still, like you said, Fab, to your point, watching his friends finish their combines and had a sick pro day and went about it. You know what? Like, everyone, I had a problem with him too. Skipping, I don't want to throw, I don't want to do this. But you know what? Like, why? Why should he? He did everything. It's all on tape. I think everything he's done so far, just haters going to hate at every point, right? Like, let him come in, let his play dictate first before you judge him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole nil thing is a very good point. I think that's an interesting segue as well, like, to talk about how, like, that is taking over a little bit more in the past. You're seeing a lot of college players have more power than what they did before. They are dictating a little bit how they want their days to go, how they want their pro day to go, how they want their interview process to go, how they want their medicals to go. Because Caleb didn't even want to get his medicals done at the combine. So it's funny how that now, like, the power shift, the dynamic has shifted a little bit to the college players, which, for all intents and purposes, I don't think it's a bad thing at all, because the NFL and even the NCAA, they were monetarily benefiting so much from all this, and the players never got anything in the beginning. So it's nice that is turning the corner a little bit. But even despite that, Nacc, it's a very good point you bring up. You can still see how, like, you can still see how genuine he is as a person, right? As a teammate and all that, and as eventually a leader too, because the quarterbacks, drafting a quarterback, they always talk about how, you're drafting the person. And I think a lot of guys might galvanize behind him. Like, Keenan Allen was at his pro day. He didn't get drafted by the Bears yet. Like, you know what I mean? Keenan Allen was there. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
He had been traded there already.
Yes, but I'm saying is that Caleb hasn't been drafted.
Oh no, okay, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But they've been friends. They've been friends for the past little bit.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, but he's going into a great situation.
I just like how you guys call it nil. I think I'm going to call it nil and not NIL.
It's fair point. We sound like rookies there. It is definitely NIL.
I actually prefer nil anyway.
Can we actually? So maybe for the uninitiated, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners here that are listening to fantasy football for the first time, and even listening to a lot of this content for the first time. can we maybe dive in or segue a little bit into what NIL is
Take it, Raj.
and how?
Yeah. Yeah, so I could take it. So basically, NIL is name, image, and likeness. So before NIL, name, image, and likeness was available to college athletes, they couldn't really like market themselves. They couldn't get like commercial deals. They couldn't get money from outside sources. And now a lot of college players, since its inception, I want to say it's about 3 to 4 years. Someone like Caleb Williams or Shadur Sanders, they can first of all go to a school that could help them offer the best NIL deal, like USC or Colorado. Those are big brands, and then they can find money in terms of like for instance, Caleb has a deal with Delta. I don't know how much it pays him specifically, but he doesn't get a deal with Delta if he's at, like, let's say UC Irvine or like Santa Barbara, whatever. So the fact that he's at USC, the fact that Shader's at Colorado, Alabama, those are big brands. They're able to make money, and then, like you said, Fab, it shifts the landscape where these guys before it was under the table if they were getting money, or they weren't getting money at all. So you're seeing college players stay an extra year, an extra 2 years, because they're able to make money while being in college. So I think it's had a big benefit. Maybe on the flip side, coaches don't like it because instead of like recruiting for the sake of, hey, I want a guy to come in because he wants to play for Bama, or I want a guy to come in to play because he wants to play for Florida State. Now he wants to come for the monetary reasoning.
Saban obviously didn't like it, and I'm 100% sure that obviously was the reason he stepped down this year. He couldn't take it. I mean, look, I think it's got to be somewhat regulated because it's still new. It's still like you said, players are just coming in to make their money and look, you should, right? This is your career, and I commend you for it. Do it, make your money when you can. But it's got to be some kind of give and take aspect to it. And I think that's what Saban was looking for and is fighting for, I guess, behind the scenes. But yeah, basically, like you said, college players are now willing to stay that extra year instead of fighting to come to the NFL as early as possible. Like, you're not seeing 20-year-olds get drafted very often anymore, right? Like, it's just not the case.
You got to thank Johnny Manziel for a lot of that after all that scratch that he was putting together.
For sure.
One of many.
He was a pioneer for that. He was a pioneer.
Yeah, totally.
But but it's funny that probably pushed a lot of the NIL agenda to go forward, right? Because they probably notice how much of a impact it has for players, and it definitely moved the needle. Yeah.
It's like legalizing marijuana.
Pretty much, right? I mean,
same basis.
You can control it now. You can tax it. You can profit from it too. You can monetize it. It can blow up into something bigger.
Still smoke it.
100%. 100%.
Well, bearing a huge surprise, we all agree, I think, that the Bears are taking Caleb number one. And I mean, after trading Justin Fields, I don't see them trading down for an abundance of picks. So let's just say for this scenario, he is pick number one. Who do we like at number two to Washington, or are we sure Washington stays? Fab?
I think Washington stays, and so as of today, Monday, March 25th, 2024, at 8:58 p.m., Tom Pelissero from NFL Network. Shout out, Tom, if you're listening. We appreciate all your work. He let go of a little nugget because also this week, I believe all the GMs and the head coaches, and they're all meeting at the annual NFL meeting. And so because I suppose they're all there at the same time, a lot of the network guys are there too and covering a lot of stuff. That way they break news, just like the whole hip drop tackle that dropped today and everything. And with a lot of these people in the same area comes a lot of the conversations that a lot of people wouldn't normally be privy to. So I guess Tom heard that some of the GMs, especially the Washington one, apparently is super high on JJ McCarthy.
Wow.
Like, don't be shocked if JJ McCarthy gets drafted second overall. And for them to drop that piece of news, I don't think it's nothing. I think there's a little bit of meat, there's a little bit of fire in that smoke type thing. I mean, JJ McCarthy, and also today, Harbaugh came out. He said that JJ McCarthy was what, like his best quarterback prospect or the best quarterback he's played with. Like he had such.
Yeah, he's been saying that. He's been saying
Like,
that for a
I
while.
think he went on
yeah.
record today, like during an ESPN interview too, and
Yeah.
really like emphatically, just point blank, like he is the best quarterback. There's always been a knock on JJ that he doesn't have as much of a body of work, or that he doesn't have the stats to back up his play or his play that could be at the NFL level. But the thing that's benefited McCarthy so much is that he plays in such a pro style offense as well. So he's also probably the most pro ready. I don't think his pro day happened yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but
it happened. It was
right. Sorry, it
Friday.
It was the other guys that didn't happen yet. They're happening this week. Jayden Daniels and Maye and
Jayden.
Sorry, yeah, and he made a lot of the great throws that he expected to be made and all that, and everyone said he looked really clean. So I don't know, honestly. I think for me, it's still Drake Maye that should be going second. I think he's the most polished quarterback as well after Caleb Williams. I was listening to a lot of the podcast about how he does make all the throws and he does make the intermediate throws and he throws down the middle, which was a big knock on some of the other quarterbacks. But I don't know, after today, it's like everything is in the blender now, right? I mean, especially when it comes this close to the draft season. We saw it a few years ago, guys flying all over the radar and everything. It's exciting. Yeah.
I think the knock on Maye was his footwork, right? People were saying that his footwork was just not, it's not NFL ready. Like he stumbles a bit, like he's not really light on his feet. So I guess look, he has the build, right? They're saying he has the Josh Allen, Big Ben type build. They were saying he was the most quarterback ready QB. I don't know if I would go that far. I think he would benefit from sitting behind someone. Who did Washington sign?
Mariota.
That's it. So I think Mariota is going to get his shot to start again, possibly. But I think being Mariota, he's got a big chance of losing the job in training camp too. Look, you could say all you want, it's his job to lose, but he could very well lose it to a Drake Maye in the summer.
Well, I think by them trading Howell a few days ago or whatever, is like a week ago, sort of cements the fact that whoever they draft second overall, whatever quarterback they draft, they fully expect this guy to start week one. Like whether they want to posturize it as a quarterback battle and all that stuff for the media and headlines, I think, because I'm on the same page as you, Nacc. Like I want these guys to sit at least for a little while. I don't think Washington wants to do that. I think this guy's going to get drafted, and if it's Drake Maye, he's going to start week one. Or if it's JJ McCarthy, he's going to start week one. I don't know about Jayden Daniels, but
so the consensus around Maye, from what I've listened to like Chase Daniel and a lot of some of the other QBs, is Maye needs to sit because of what Nacc said, the footwork. He didn't have a good O-line at North Carolina. So when you don't have a good O-line, you have to be able to set your feet and make calls to see the blitz, and it doesn't seem like he's doing that. And then I look at who the backup is. So if you think that Maye can't start, he has to sit, right? And you see Mariota's the backup, that leads me to, I agree with you, Fab, either Jayden Daniels or JJ McCarthy for Washington. With regards to McCarthy, like the thing with the Big Ten offenses is that all Big Ten offenses, they run a lot of pro style offense. So pro style, they huddle. They don't use those like goofy cards that the offensive lineman, the offensive coordinator shows like Britney Spears, and like that means it's like a Hail Mary or whatever, right? So they run the ball a lot. It's a lot of power eye. So that's what McCarthy did. He did a lot of that at Michigan. Like I watched a lot of Michigan games, so I noticed that. So it's hard to say, hey, like it's not his fault that they're not necessarily utilizing as much, because in the Big Ten they run the football, right? He had like 2,900 yards, 22 TDs, 4 touchdowns. Not too many starts, but I find he has a good arm. He could run really well. The only concerns I kind of have is when I see him, I see a bit of Zach Wilson in terms of like the mobility, the live arm. Even during his pro day, he was able, like the way he ran his bootleg, the way he did his trick shots, like it reminded me a bit of Zach Wilson, but the fact that he played in the Big Ten, I think, is a big win for him. And he played under Harbaugh, who played in the NFL. I think he has the leadership capability. So I agree with McCarthy being the right fit, or Daniels for Washington. I don't know if we're gonna jump on Daniels now, but I think it's one of those two for Washington. I don't think it's Maye.
Do you think there's any chance Washington's calling Chicago to move up to one? On the odd chance that Chicago says, you know what, like maybe I won't. Like if you give me a king's ransom to go down one spot, Caleb wears the same colors. He's from there. Like I don't know. It's one of those things that just keeps popping up as a story. I can't see the Bears trading down even one spot.
I don't think the Bears pass on it.
I think it's going to take a deal similar to what Kevin Costner got in the movie The Draft, where it's like number one picks for the next like 4 years or whatever it is, right? Like I think it's going to only take something like that.
You guys remember Ricky Williams and Mike Ditka with the Saints?
Oh yeah.
It was like three or four or five first rounders.
I don't remember how many there were, but there
was a
lot.
ton. Yeah,
it was just crazy.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Like
I don't know. Look, if Washington is desperate and really wants him and says, "Hey, I'll give you the next 3 years of first round picks to move to 2," you don't think Chicago at least entertains it?
100%. I don't see how you can't.
Give me the next 3 years of ones and a 2 this year or something. Like, man, you've just cemented, and you get what? Like, your consolation is a Jayden Daniels or a Drake Maye, or hey, maybe they like JJ McCarthy this whole time, and he wants to go. Like, I don't know. Like, again, this is all speculation. I think we can go for hours talking about this, but
I have a good. It's funny you say that because I was reading. So for all the listeners out there, Roger and I are Giants fans, so this is kind of a big draft for us because we may or may not be getting. Shut up, Nacc. No one cares about fucking Steelers. We may or may not be getting a potential quarterback, especially now that JJ McCarthy might be going second overall. If that rumor actually is true, there is a real chance that like Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels actually falls to 6, just by how everything else plays out. But anyways, we can talk about that later. Joe Shane, the GM for the Giants, he mentioned today about how the margin of error is so small, yet is so big for drafting a quarterback. Because if you draft, like, let's say an offensive tackle, oh shit, like he didn't pan out to be like my starting right guard or my starting right tackle. Well, he's depth. I have him on my bench. I need like 3 or 4 guards anyways. It's okay. Same thing with wide receivers. Obviously a little bit less so, but same concept. Quarterback, and we've seen it already from 2021, right? Just the guys that, like Nacc, you rattled off a bunch of names the other day about guys that were in the league, non the league, benched, and they were all like starting, or they were all drafted in the first round.
Just because it's similar to this draft. You have that one guy who like everyone thinks and believes is better than everyone in Caleb Williams, and in 2021 it was Lawrence, and then everyone else that passed in that draft is either a backup or not in the league anymore. I think they're all backups actually. To be the next 4 were all backups so far. Or the next 5 even.
Yes. They're all backups.
They're all backups right now.
And that just sort of, it cements that point where it's like if you want your guy, it doesn't matter what he costs, you get him. So whether you're in Chicago's spot and it's like 5 first-round picks, 6 first-round picks, it's like I know it's not going to happen, right? Let's just use a very ridiculous example. It's like, okay, that's great and all, but I might never get a guy like this again for 5.
But that's what I'm saying. To your point, that's what I'm saying is Washington, new ownership, right? Guy comes in, new regime, cleans house. Maybe he's desperate, and maybe he says, you know what? Like, we'll just hope to hit on second-round picks for the next 3 years, and we want our guy, And I'm sure the Bears are getting calls on it. I'd be shocked if they weren't. But anyways.
Yeah.
Next guy that could go 2, that could go 3, that could go later. There's Jayden Daniels, mobile type quarterback. I think he's probably close to ready. I'd love to see him sit a year, but I think he's as close as anything to ready to play in the NFL. Look, if he goes to New England, at least you have some guy who's if you have a Jacoby Brissett who can spot start for a year, and I'd love Jacoby Brissett to spot start and Jayden to learn from him. Brissett's been a pro. He's been around the league. He was actually drafted by the Patriots. So it's a little bit of a homecoming for him. But no, I don't I don't know. I can't see the Patriots not going QB. Hey, maybe McCarthy's still there and they go for him instead at 3. Who knows? Like you keep saying, he keeps rising up the draft boards. But I think Daniels is a very, very interesting prospect as well.
So I really think for the Pats, this is where they go May because to your point, Fab, they have Nacc, they have Brissett, and if a lot of the consensus is that May needs to sit. I mean, if Daniels is available, I don't think he sits because he's had 55 starts. Like, it's a lot of starts for a college QB. And there was an article, I don't remember who wrote it, forgive me, but they're doing a correlation on college starts and success at the NFL level. And it seemed like there was somewhat of a correlation where the more starts you get in college, the higher likelihood that you do have success in the NFL. So Daniels is a 5, 6 year guy, like crazy speed, crazy arm. That he had a lot of talent. He has there's two wide receivers, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, who are likely going to be. Malik is going to be top 5 at the very least, top 6 max, and Brian Thomas will definitely be a mid first rounder. So it's hard to. I think it's hard for probably some evaluators to say how good is he versus the type of skill position that he's had, but he throws really, really, really good deep ball, and he's fast as hell. I see him like in the Lamar Jackson mold. It's just that he's really, really thin. Like, he's rail thin. And if you watch his highlights, he takes a ton of hits. Like, it's kind of a good thing. Like, he has that Josh Allen mold where he dives into guys. Like, he fights for extra yard, but he's like literally 200 pounds. So he's going to have to be wary of that. And
I should probably talk to Anthony Richardson about that. See how it went, to not slide a little bit and try to make all the plays, especially when you don't need to be Superman. I think staying on the field is a better option for your team and for yourself. So I think learning how to not always take those big hits goes a long way for sure.
Yeah, I was going to make that comparison actually to Anthony Richardson, so you jump cut me on that. But that's very. And Anthony Richardson is like what, maybe 40 pounds heavier than.
He's a beast. He's more Cam Newton style.
Big boy.
Yeah,
the big boy.
And he was taking all those hits, and he didn't finish the season, and he got injured twice, if I'm not mistaken, last season in his first season. So it's not it's definitely a dangerous game to be playing like him. But then again, you see Lamar Jackson do it too. Lamar Jackson is very slender. I'm not saying he's going to be like Lamar, but there is an example that exists out there that he could emulate. He did win the Heisman Trophy too. I think from a fantasy perspective, since we do want to pivot to the fantasy aspect a little bit too, I think Jayden Daniels would be the most interesting one right off the gates if we're drafting in a 2-quarterback league and if we're drafting for next year from a quarterback standpoint. Caleb Williams could be interesting. I see him maybe turning out to be best case scenario would be like a CJ Stroud year 1, But I think that Jayden Daniels could have some rushing upside that could be fantasy viable as well. I also don't know how he's going to, let's say if he does go to New England, what's the ecosystem there? Is it going to be a viable situation for him to thrive, right? Because Washington have been doing a lot of moves in the offseason as well, right? They've been changing a lot of their alignment too. They've been trying to make it a bit of a more beneficial area for quarterbacks to thrive, or at least they're the quarterback that they plan on drafting to thrive. New England, they've been very hush-hush about their plans. It's hard to figure out what's going to happen with the new regime there, especially with Belichick. It's no longer there. The new head coach. I don't necessarily know if they would even go quarterback. It's not a foregone conclusion, I think.
I don't know about the problem is they should go quarterback only because they have Brissett and they have the guy who could start a year 100% and be comfortable there. The problem is any rookie QB that goes to New England does not have weapons there to help the guy out, right? Like he's going to be instant fail. It's going to be similar to what Mac Jones did. Mac Jones came in whatever. He played really well as his first year, but did not get any help. And then it kind of crashed and burned, and they didn't help him out at all. They tried to make a couple moves. They had Smith-Schuster come in last year. They still had Devontae Parker. It didn't work out, but they let Jacoby Myers out the door for some reason. Finally hit on a receiver. They have a good receiver, and they let him go to Vegas. Like, didn't make any sense to me. So I think, to your point, whoever, I think they should draft a quarterback because it's important, and who knows when you're going to get an opportunity like this again. But without weapons, I think that QB, no matter who he is, has to sit a year because he's going to go into a really, really ugly situation in New England. And like you said, Washington has receivers too, right? You've got Dotson, you've got McLaurin, you've got weapons for him. He's got a little bit of backfield help as well over there. So
yeah, they signed Eckler in the offseason, right?
yeah, they still have Brian Robinson. Yeah.
Brian Robinson.
So they still have a backfield to help the guy out. Like, those two guys are going into pretty good situations,
Yeah.
Fab, I like the point about the Daniels in the fantasy, 1,000 yards rushing last year and 10 rushing TDs.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely
guys are freak athletes.
100%. We can't overlook it, and that's why I thought it was important to bring up to, like, okay, this guy might be drafted as a top 20 quarterback
easily,
in an NFL draft. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like, you can argue that he's going to have higher upside than, like, especially not like Herbert on a week-to-week basis, because who the hell is Herbert throwing to?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, that's why it gets kind of interesting now when you start going down the slot here. At that 4, you've got Arizona, who, look, they're obviously not taking a QB. They're most likely going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll dive into that a little bit more next week. Yeah,
trade down.
They could. They definitely could. I'm not saying it's impossible because they could get a boatload for that pick. I think the wild card becomes at number 5 with San Diego. Or LA, excuse me. It's not San Diego anymore. I think that's
San Diego.
That's the wild card of the draft, and that's where everyone's going to start. Okay, you have Minnesota, who just acquired another first-round pick. Now they have 11 and 23. What are they doing? Do they have enough ammunition to get to 5? The interesting thing about the Vikings is that they don't have very many picks. I think they have 2 firsts, and then they go right down to 4th. They don't pick again to the 4th round, and where I think they have, I believe it's 2 4th rounds, 2 5ths, 6th, and a 7th. Anyways, then next year too is the Capitals not it's not a full cupboard, So I'm trying to think to myself, like, if they're trying to move up to 5, it's going to take more than 11 and 23. And then you're like, like, what do you have this year? Like, you're gonna take the QB, let's say at 5. Let's say they take JJ at 5 if he's there. Now, what do you got now you're not picking to the 4th round? Like, what's the plan in Minnesota?
They don't have enough. I think they need to trade up again to one spot to then trade those picks to get into the top
capital?
4.
Like, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like they don't have enough.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But it's not enough. The 11 and 23 is not enough, in my opinion, to move up to 5 or even 4 or 3.
No, it's going to take another first-round pick in 2025 for them to get that high. And so the whole Minnesota Vikings thing is interesting because I've been reading up on, obviously, that they're the trades that they made as hit the headlines, and you look at who they have on their staff. They have Josh McCown, who's their quarterbacks coach, who used to also coach Drake Maye, right, in high school, I think.
High school, yeah.
Yeah, it's in high school. Yeah. Great call out.
Yeah, and so there's people are connecting those dots very strongly, which makes sense. Like, it could be obviously a very good relationship there too. And imagine how nice it would be for Minnesota to have Drake Maye be in the same quarterback room as, like an existing quarterback there who's also trying to get his feet wet and start up again and all that stuff. And they already have you talk about how being in a good system and a good and a good ecosystem for a quarterback to thrive. Rookie quarterback coming in and throwing to Justin Jefferson doesn't get much better than that. It would be nice. I hope not, as a Giants fan, but worse things have happened, I suppose. But that's something that I think we should be touching on too, right? There is that existing relationship there that could actually turn into something tangible for the Vikings and maybe push them even further to be like, okay, you know what? JJ McCarthy went second. Daniels is still on the board. Let's push up and maybe trade with Arizona. And then all of a sudden, Arizona, they can still get their wide receiver that they wanted to get, albeit at 11. But seeing as a wide receiver,
No.
well, but I'm saying they can still get a wide receiver that they wanted to get, not the
Who's
wide
this?
receiver that they're not going to get.
Well,
Arizona.
Oh,
Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, or Dunze, they're not going to be there at 11. And for what, like the fact that they let go of Hollywood Brown, it would be a loss if they come out of this draft without one of those top three, in my opinion.
I can't see a world where they pass on Harrison. But I mean, look, anything could happen.
Fair.
You can get they can. What happens if they dangle Addison? You know, what happens if they're what happens if they dangle? What happens if they dangle Jefferson? Like, you don't know. Maybe they don't want to pay this guy for $35 million a year. Like, what happens if they dangle him instead? You know, they say, I'll keep my picks. I'll give you JJ for number 5. You think the Chargers are going to say no? The Chargers looking for a wide receiver. They have cap space now. They can make it. They can make it work. I think they're 33 as of today. They were like 33 million under the cap. Excuse me. Like, is it so far-fetched for them to say, hey, I want number 5, I'll give you 23 and JJ, you give me back 5 and, I don't know, a second or a third, something like that. Like, it's not. I don't think it's out of the question.
You're putting a first-round value next year on Justin Jefferson this year? Is that how am I interpreting it? Like, if you're like, what was that offer?
Like, Justin Jefferson right now with his experience. Okay, yeah. It's with his experience. Yes. He's available at 5th in the draft. Are you not taking him? Are you not drafting Justin Jefferson above whoever else is there? But before Marvin Harrison, before all those guys, are you not taking Justin Jefferson at 5?
I think it's a little bit more. I think it's a harder question than that. You got to think about the contract that's going to cost, because also you get these rookie guys.
For sure. And look, if you're strapped for cash, like it's different.
It's going to put you. Yeah, it's going to put you in cap hell. I mean, how much he's going to be paid the highest? He's going to get the biggest contract for any wide receiver.
They just shipped They just shipped out both of their top wide receivers that were getting paid, that were going to cost 30-something million over the cap. You trade out one 100%. To get the best one in the league. Like, I don't think it's that crazy, and they have the cap to make it work. I mean,
I don't think any GM would do that. Would use an existing player as a first round value? Have we ever seen that before?
At draft night, you're saying?
Yeah. As like, I'll give you a 23rd overall pick and my player, basically compensating for another draft pick that they could have gave them, or like another first round pick for the following year. Because these guys value their draft picks.
Like, yeah, for sure. But I'm saying, even during the year, someone offers you something like Justin Jefferson is not going for less than at least a first round pick. Like, you're not getting him for less than that. Like, I highly doubt it. Not as person as his pedigree. Like,
I don't disagree.
I think it depends on the team. I think it depends on the team. Like, is Arizona ready? If they're able to make that move, is Arizona a contender right away? No.
It's true.
You know, are the Chargers the contender right away? No. So I think that whoever that team is has to factor in, are they a contender right away to take that much cap, the amount of cap that would come from having Justin Jefferson versus just staying at that pick and taking the rookie scale for the wide receiver at 4th overall. Or at 5th overall.
For sure, but you're still trading down and you're still getting a first round pick. So you're getting Jefferson and a first round pick. It's just going to be lower, right? If you can come out with a first round pick and Justin Jefferson, is what I'm saying. Like, you trade Justin Jefferson and your 23rd, let's say, to move up to 5, and you give them back, I don't know, whatever draft pick it is, a 3rd, a 4th round pick, and I'd pick number 5. Like, to me, I personally don't think it may not happen, only because, like, Harbaugh, like, I don't think he's gonna, like, he doesn't really need that. If you ship 2 of them out of town, like, I don't think he's gonna want it. But I just think, like, for Vikings purposes, maybe they dangle one of their receivers to try to move up higher, because, to our point, it's going to take more than 11 and 23 to get to 5.
Yeah, that I agree with 100%. I think that logic is sound. Yeah, 100%.
They don't have anyone else. They don't have enough draft capital. They're going to have to append a current player.
Yeah, that's why I don't know how much higher they can get unless they start mortgaging their entire draft capital.
and that QB better hit, man.
Yeah, well, that's like you
Yeah.
have to be really sure that like your Drake Maye is going to hit, and Josh McCown's going to be on the hook for
But
a lot of future years for the Vikings
but then you
too.
have Denver too. Like, what does Denver do? What does Vegas do? Are they making a run at one of these guys, or are they happy to? I guess this segues into our final two guys that could go kind of in those ranges now, just because I feel like teams are getting very desperate, and I think in desperate times, you know, at the beginning of or towards the end of the year, people were talking like Penix and Bo Nix were going to be fringe first round picks and likely second round picks. And now the more stuff you read, the more like there could be trade ups for even these guys, and like there's going to be realistically there's going to be a fight between what the Vikings, the Denver and Vegas for these final two quarterbacks, right? Like each of these three teams is going to want one, and it's going to come down to who's going to want to pay more for these guys. As we just mentioned, the Vikings do have that 2 first round picks, and I still think it's going to take more to go up to 5. But even Denver or Vegas is kind of the same thing. And Sean Payton needs to get back on course. Antonio Pierce is looking to start a franchise and start fresh, and he wants a guy. So Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are not going to be the guys to take you to the promised land, right? So maybe you draft one of these guys and sit him, but even Denver, who does Denver have? Denver has both Stidham. Like
Stidham.
that's not
Yeah.
the guy. So I wonder that's going to be the wild cards for. What do you guys think? Bo Nix and Penix fall in this equation.
I've been hearing a lot of links for Bo Nix to Sean Payton. I just don't see him as first round value, and neither do a lot of other. Well, sorry, excuse me. I'm not going to put myself in the same class as the professional analyst there. But I've been reading a lot about it, and Penix and Bo Nix, those two guys are not graded as first round talents, but they're probably going to go into the first round, like you said, Nacc, just by virtue of having a very scarce product. And also, I think that a lot of what you're hearing, these guys are getting high on all the quarterback talk and everything, and all the first four are going great. And then there's Penix and Bo Nix, and they all, if you look at their stats, both of them had fantastic seasons statistically. But and this is an interesting point that I wanted to bring up too. So I don't know if you guys follow him. His name is Ian Hartitz on Twitter. He does the Fantasy Life with Matthew Berry. He had a very interesting little nugget of information there. So the best worst Power 5 2023 supporting cast in terms of average, PFF, rush, receiving, pass blocking, and run blocking. So basically, on average, the best graded team of Power 5. Oregon was first, 86.6. LSU second, 84. Washington fifth, 81.3. Michigan 12th, 79.5. And this is a mark out of 100. USC 15th, 78.3. North Carolina 31st, 72.8. So just to show you the average quality of player that each of these guys is playing with, Bo Nix is playing with a much higher caliber of teammates around him, which is a good reason why his stats are as they are. He looks as good as he is. I find it interesting that LSU is so high, but I think that also falls with the wide receivers. Because I know we mentioned, I mentioned the first two that are going to be drafted in the draft this year, but apparently that entire room is stacked as well, from what I've been hearing. There's a lot of guys in the wings that are coming up too. They're going to be interesting for next year. Washington, there's a lot of players that are going to be drafted out of Washington. Michigan, USC, later on, it kind of plays into the whole narrative of how these guys are being looked and how Penix and Nix should not be looked as first-round talents.
Oh, Fab, you just listed like 5 of the best programs in college football. Like it's normal that the best programs in college football recruit the best players, no?
Yeah, 100%. You're right. I get
the best programs are they're gonna have the best players. They have the best coaches. They have the best like training staff. Like Oregon recruits they recruit from Cali. They recruit from Texas. Mm-hmm. They recruit from Washington State. Like they recruit everywhere. So, same with yeah, it's mental. So it's it's very, very conducive, right? Like there's no salary cap in college.
Yeah, no,
so.
you're right. I just think it's an interesting statistic to point out about how like the supporting cast that these guys have on average are a lot stronger, a lot better than the supporting cast of the other players, of the other quarterbacks that we're evaluating that have been performing as good, if not better than them. So it gives you sort of makes you understand. It gives you the perspective of like, okay, how good are these quarterbacks really? Are they only good because of the products that they have?
Yeah.
And I guess I know Oregon and their pro days are coming up, and so we're going to probably know more then. But I thought it was interesting about how, and this is a perfect set. Well, this is a comparable to Caleb Williams. They've had, I think he had the most blowout losses of any of the top quarterbacks that are being looked at right now. Like they were routinely behind by like 20 points going.
Who's this?
Caleb Williams and USC.
Yeah, their defense was
very bad,
and he still performed well to the point where it's like, okay, this guy's gonna be drafted first overall.
Well, I won a Heisman 2 years ago, also.
I was about to say that he won a Heisman 2 years ago as well. Thank you. So like, it's an interesting. Again, like we don't know 100% how these guys are going to pan out. We have no idea. Not even GMs do technically. We're just here. Totally. We're just having fun on the podcast. But it's just good to know that, like all these, like I like Bo Nix. I think I don't know. He has a quarterback name. It sounds cool. But the rest of his team around him, like, is also, cool. Also cracking right. The rest of his team around him is doing so well. It's like, I get why he might be perceived as a later round pick and a second round pick, and maybe not a starter, but he could turn into something. Could turn into a project. Could be turned into something that I think Sean Payton was really interested in.
So do you ding CJ Stroud for that last year at OSU? Because they had a ton. Like OSU always has a ton of talent.
Well, he proved everyone wrong. I mean, he did have some talent last year that kind of progressed year, but I mean, he kind of proved everyone wrong in a sense that.
It's a hard question to ask now because he's in the pros, but it's the same. To Fab's point, it's the same thing that comes out with OSU is that they have the most talented teams all the time, and their quarterbacks. We see it. It's a rocky road. Fields came from OSU.
Yeah, they have a very bad. They have a
Cardell,
very bad track record for QBs.
There's Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace. For me, Penix, I fucking love this guy.
Yeah, you've been
love watching this guy play. Like the way he throws, like just like fuck you throws, like deep post, deep seam. Like he just throws it in there. He has a Dunze, like he doesn't give a shit. He just throws it in there. He runs and he rocks a do-rag.
I think honestly, like Vegas, I was going to say, I think if he gets to the Raiders, I think that's a match made in heaven for them. And then look, you can go in there and look, he's got a Devontae Adams in there, right? Like he can go in there right now. He can compete. And like I have no doubt in my mind this guy's beating out Gardner Minshew and O'Connell or O'Donnell, whatever his name is.
His issue is the two ACLs. Like he tore both ACLs at Indiana, and then he transferred to Washington. So I firmly believe it's the medical history that's bringing him down.
He's a bit older too, no?
He's a bit older. He's like 24, but like 45 starts. The Texas game, he was amazing. And then and that's the other thing that brings him down is against Texas, he was electrifying. Against Michigan, like a pro-style defense where they pressured him like crazy. Then he wasn't able to escape.
Yeah,
wasn't able to move as much.
He did not have a good game.
So I think that's an impact. That's a factor for sure. Nix is great. Nix has amazing stats. He could run. He could throw. I think to your point, Fab, there's some validity because I was looking at a stat today that said about 30% of his throws were at the line of scrimmage or behind. Yeah. That's a ton of throws, and that's where I think what you're saying there has some validity, whereas he's relying a lot on his supporting cast. But I think that the Sean Payton likes quick processors. He likes guys who will throw the quick game, throw the short game. So I think that fit is valid. I just agree with Fab that I don't think you could draft Bo Nix 12th overall.
No, I agree, and I just think there's going to be a lot of scramble. I'm really excited to see where all these QBs go. Who knows? Maybe one of Bo Nix or Penix doesn't get drafted in the first round, they got to wait till day 2. Like maybe something happens. Maybe they're, people are just not sold and they're willing to go another year or they're willing to go another route. Like we don't know. Maybe we could wrap up the segment by seeing which one you guys think has the most bust potential. Like there's no way all 6 of them are going to be good. Like it's very highly unlikely.
So do we call a bust, like let's say if Nix and Penix get drafted in the second round, are they bust?
I'm saying like top, let's say first round grade bust. I guess if they get drafted in the second, it's a little. Well, look, I mean, if Hurts somehow falls off a cliff now, he was a second round pick, but went to the Super Bowl, got paid. Like, can you talk to him and say he's a bust if he never plays well again? I think you can, because he came in there, got paid, and so it's the same thing with a Bo Nix or a Penix. If they come in, rocket a couple, like he got paid after year 2, I think. Hurts, or is it year 3? I think it's
year 3.
Because first year he came in, it was rocky. Second year, it's true. It was after year 2. After year 2,
yeah,
It was right
after Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
And then last year you saw, he lost his coordinators and it came a little rocky. I think we went off the rails a little bit there, but I'm saying I think you could still be considered a bust if you come in here, play well, get paid, and then never do well again.
I mean, I think hot take. I think Jayden Daniels has the highest chance to become a bust. I feel like because he only had one really good season at LSU, and and then this is not to discredit his stats or anything like that, right? But and even though he's played 55 games, there's a body of work that exists out there where 4 of the 5 seasons that he's been an active starter, an active quarterback, he hasn't necessarily put up other Heisman level performances. So you look at the last season, LSU was an amazing season. Sure, his wide receivers are completely stacked. I don't know how that's going to translate in the NFL. I think he's going to need a lot more assistance than maybe the other top 3 quarterbacks or 4 quarterbacks are going to be drafted. So I think that has a higher potential for a bust at the professional level.
I think a lot of running quarterbacks are labeled as the most bust potential too, because they think, this guy ran for 1,000 yards last year, like he's a one trick, like he's gonna be a rude awakening in the NFL, and I think it's easy to label them as like easy bust candidates. Yeah. Dan Orlovsky apparently loves Jayden Daniels, like he loves Jayden Daniels, like raving about this kid.
Because he's a good pocket passer. He's actually a good pocket passer. Yeah. He really is. He really is. From what I've seen, at least.
I don't know. It's tough to see. I don't know. I know my friend Guido is going to hate me, but I think Bo Nix has bust potential in my eyes. Like from what I've seen, from what I look at, I don't know if his game is going to necessarily translate to pro game.
I think it depends where he gets drafted to, but like sort of like the whole the Jalen Hurts conversation. I mean, yeah, sure, you could label him a bust if he's in the second round, but if he's in the second round, maybe he doesn't start the first year. Maybe he actually sits for a little bit. They try to manage the play calling duties that best suit him, that way he can succeed. Awesome. But I get your point, though. It might not translate well to the NFL too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be I can't see Caleb busting. I think Drake Maye struggles at the beginning, but like kind of Josh Allen style, where he struggles for the first few years and then kind of figures it out with the right coaching. So again, he's got the arm, he's got the build. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to put like a bust potential on him. Jayden Daniels, it's an easy candidate, but from what you said, like it makes sense. And then there's like the JJ McCarthy. I feel like he's just the biggest wild card, but like Harbaugh raves about this guy. Is it because he coached him? Sure, some of it has to be, but like he raves about this guy. I think that's the one I'm most excited to see as a pro is JJ McCarthy, because like this guy is all people have been talking about. He was supposed to go like 11th and like late mid first round to like, look, now you're saying almost maybe second overall. So I'm really excited to see him. But I mean, with all the hype, he could have bust potential too.
Can I say mine?
Yeah.
Just the UNC factor with Trubisky. I have to go May. I don't want to say Howell's a bust, but and I know it was his rookie year, but I did not like what I saw from Howell. And this is a hard exercise. I think except for Caleb, I think
right?
any one of them could theoretically be a bust. But
even Caleb, just like we don't.
Yeah, for sure.
How many guys said that Ryan Leaf was going to be an amazing quarterback, and look where he is now, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
But I think, like, for me, Penix, I would just be devastated. Nacc is a good one. Yeah, I'll go with May if I had to choose. I'd have to go with May.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if J.J. McCarthy has the most success.
Again, it's going to depend where he goes. I think depending where he goes, he needs to go somewhere where he's got a run game, right? Like that's where he thrived. Like I think without that, he's going to suffer, right?
Where are we drafting Caleb Williams next year?
QB2
or this year?
Yeah.
QB2.
He's got weapons. He's starting right away, 100%. Like yeah.
Do we see a potential CJ Stroud finish
easily
for next year for Caleb Williams?
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I don't think CJ Stroud. I don't think we could have seen how well CJ Stroud was going to do because we didn't assume the weapons would develop like they did with Tank Dell and Nico, and even Dalton Schultz had a really good year.
Well, Nico had a very nice year last year prior to CJ Stroud coming. But decent,
he did.
Like not like but to your point, I think the Tank Dell thing came out of nowhere. And that guy was just killing it. Like I think he was wide receiver 9 on a points per game basis before he got injured, which is stupid.
Yeah, no, they hit. Like they had rookies that hit. Like everything meshed in place and everything hit. Like Houston's candidate for regression too, right? Like you don't know. Like they really went bonkers year one. You know, like.
That's a very good point. We can't assume that CJ is going to have the same stats or even make the jump. That's a very good point. That's true.
But that'll be a discussion for another topic.
That's going to be a fun discussion.
Well, guys, I think that that wraps up episode 2 here. I think that was great insight. Everyone, please just remember to keep commenting and apply your feedback. Or give us your feedback so it could be applied, should I say. It was greatly appreciated for everyone who's listening. Please keep following us on the social media. So on Instagram, it's the Bush League Huddle. Same handle on TikTok as well as YouTube. And Bush League Huddle without the E on Twitter. So yeah, thanks again for listening. Hope you really like it. And we'll see you guys next week for episode 3. And to kick you guys out of here, pay homage to my good friend Pat McAfee. Be a friend, tell a friend something nice. It might change their life. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.